Against all odds, the silence in Earth's Defense Command Center was deafening. Admiral Jackson stared at the holographic display with a grim expression as it showed the approaching Krylian Armada, 417 warships in perfect formation, inexorably advancing toward Earth. Humanity's last line of defense consisted of just 14 battle-worn vessels scattered across the Sol system after 3 years of brutal conflict. "Time to intercept?" Jackson asked, his voice steady despite the weight of 6 billion lives on his shoulders. Lieutenant Commander Rice checked her console. "The Vanguard will reach Luna's orbit in 9 hours, sir. The evacuation transports need at least 16 to get the last civilians to the Mars shelters." Jackson nodded slowly. 3 years ago, the Krylians had emerged from deep space with a simple ultimatum: surrender or die. Their technology was centuries ahead of humanity's, their ships impossibly fast and powerful. Earth had chosen to fight, and paid dearly for that defiance. Now, with resources depleted and defenses crumbling, it seemed the final reckoning had come. "What about the Valiant?" asked General Okafor, the uncharacteristic hint of hope in her voice causing several heads to turn. Jackson exchanged a look with Dr. Sharma, the chief scientist of Project Displacement. The woman's eyes were bloodshot from weeks without proper sleep, but there was fierce determination in them. "The Valiant completed its final systems check 3 hours ago," Sharma replied. "Captain Chen reports the quantum displacement drive is functioning at 94% efficiency. That's as good as we're going to get without another 6 months of testing." "Which we don't have," Jackson finished. He straightened his uniform jacket and made the decision that would either save humanity or accelerate its extinction. "Deploy the Valiant." Hidden within the cratered highlands of the lunar far side, within the cavernous Daedalus construction facility, Captain Eliza Chen stood on the bridge of humanity's last, best hope. The TSV Valiant wasn't like any warship built before. At 310 meters long, it was smaller than standard battlecruisers, with an elongated teardrop shape of midnight black composite materials that absorbed rather than reflected light. "Final pre-launch checks complete, Captain," announced Commander Wei, her second in command. "All systems nominal. Crew is at battle stations." Eliza nodded, her dark eyes scanning the holographic displays surrounding her command chair. The Valiant represented the culmination of desperate human innovation. Theoretical physics made manifest through necessity and brilliance. 178 crew members operated a vessel that would have required 500 under normal circumstances, all automation and redundancy sacrificed for the revolutionary technology at its heart. "Status of the KD drive?" she asked. Lieutenant Rivera tapped at his engineering console. "Quantum displacement field generator is stable at 94%, Captain. Dr. Karim says that's well within operational parameters, though she'd prefer we didn't push beyond 85% in the first live deployment." "Noted, but we'll use whatever we need to survive," Eliza replied. She opened the shipwide channel. "All hands, this is the captain speaking. In 15 minutes, we launch to engage the Krylian Armada. I won't minimize our situation. We are outnumbered beyond any reasonable military calculation. But the Valiant wasn't built for reasonable scenarios." She paused, knowing her next words would be recorded for posterity, whether as humanity's final testament or the beginning of its resurgence. "Every one of you volunteered for this mission, knowing it might be one way. You represent the finest minds and bravest hearts Earth has to offer, serving on the most advanced ship humans have ever conceived. Today, we show the Krylians what happens when they back humanity into a corner. Today, we fight not just for our survival, but for our right to determine our own future among the stars." Throughout the ship, men and women prepared for battle with solemn determination. Unlike the brutal Krylians with their rigid hierarchy and clone soldiers, the Valiant's crew represented the full spectrum of humanity, different nations, backgrounds, and specialties united by a common purpose. "Launch sequence initiated," Wei announced as the massive hangar doors above them began to part, revealing the star-filled blackness of space. The Valiant rose silently from its lunar cradle, driven by gravitic propulsors that left no exhaust trail. As it cleared the lunar surface, Eliza studied the tactical display showing the approaching Krylian Armada, a vast wall of destructive power advancing in perfect geometric formation. "They're detecting us," reported Lieutenant Commander Garcia from the sensor station. "Two scout vessels are breaking formation to investigate." Eliza nodded. "As expected. Tactical, prepare targeting solutions but hold fire. Let's see what they make of us." The Krylian scout ships, sleek predatory vessels bristling with weapons, accelerated toward the Valiant, clearly intending to eliminate what they perceived as a minor nuisance before the main fleet arrived. Aboard the Krylian command dreadnought Inevitable Dominion, Fleet Commander Vexkar received the sensor reports with dismissive contempt. The four-armed alien's leathery skin rippled with amusement as his subordinates described the lone human vessel approaching from the satellite they called Moon. "One ship," he rumbled, mandibles clicking in the Krylian equivalent of laughter. "After all this time, they send one ship to face the might of the Dominion. Perhaps they wish to surrender." "Energy readings are unusual." "Exalted One," chirped his sensor officer. "Configuration unknown. It may represent new technology." Vexkar's upper arms made a gesture of unconcern. "It matters not. Their primitive science cannot match centuries of Krylian military supremacy. The scouts will eliminate this annoyance." He turned to his communications officer. "Once the scouts have destroyed this vessel, broadcast to the humans again. Tell them their futile resistance only increases our resolve to cleanse their colonies along with their homeworld." Back on the Valiant, the Krylian scouts had taken flanking positions and launched their first salvo, particle beams that would slice through conventional armor like paper. "QD field active," announced Rivera just as the beams reached them. What happened next astonished even the Valiant's crew, who had only seen simulations of their technology in action. The particle beams seemed to distort as they approached, bending around the ship as though reality itself was rejecting their existence. Not a single weapon impact registered. "Quantum displacement functioning exactly as designed," Dr. Karim reported from engineering, the normally stoic physicist unable to keep excitement from her voice. "The beams existed in a state of quantum uncertainty regarding their path until they interacted with our field, at which point the probability of them missing us became the only viable reality." The scouts fired again, this time with their full weapons complement. Torpedoes, energy beams, and kinetic projectiles, all bent around the Valiant in defiance of conventional physics. "Krylian vessels are adjusting positions," Garcia reported. "They're attempting to establish a crossfire pattern." "Now we show them what else the Valiant can do," Eliza said. "Tactical, target the lead vessel's propulsion system. Fire when ready." The Valiant's weapons were conventional in design but revolutionary in application. As the main battery fired, the quantum field momentarily extended around the energy beam, collapsing only at the precise moment of impact. The result was devastating. The scout ship's aft section disintegrated, leaving the vessel tumbling helplessly. "Direct hit," Tactical confirmed. "Second vessel is attempting evasive maneuvers." "Pursue and disable," Eliza ordered. "We need to make an impression." The Valiant accelerated with impossible agility for a ship its size, quantum fields reducing its effective mass. Within minutes, the second scout was disabled as well, its weapons and engines destroyed with surgical precision. On the Inevitable Dominion, Vexkar stared at the tactical display in disbelief as the scout vessel's distress signals reached him. "Impossible," he hissed. "How can one ship defeat two scouts?" "The human vessel appears to be using some form of field technology that renders our weapons ineffective," his tactical officer reported. "Our sensors cannot establish a coherent lock on its position or mass." Vexkar's mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. "Dispatch the entire vanguard. 20 ships. Whatever technology they've developed cannot withstand concentrated fire from our finest warships." As the Valiant continued its advance, The crew worked feverishly to analyze the data from their first engagement. Dr. Karim had made a critical discovery. "Captain," she called from engineering, "we've detected a pattern in the Krylian weapon systems. Their targeting relies on quantum-locked particles that establish a fixed reference point in space-time. It's why our KD field disrupts them so effectively. We're essentially shifting the quantum state of the entire ship microscopically across multiple probabilistic realities. Can we exploit this weakness?" Eliza asked. "Theoretically, yes. If we calibrate the KD field to match their quantum frequency, but phase-shifted, we could potentially create a feedback loop in their targeting systems." "Do it," Eliza ordered. "We're about to have a lot more company." The tactical display updated to show 20 Krylian warships breaking from the main fleet, forming a deadly arrowhead formation as they accelerated toward the Valiant. Defiance. The 20 Krylian warships approached in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with metallic arrogance under the distant sun. Each vessel was a masterpiece of alien engineering. Fusion reactors, antimatter weapons, and gravity manipulation technology that had crushed human fleets throughout the war. Captain Eliza Chen watched them advance on the main view screen, forcing herself to appear calm despite the hammering of her heart. "Tactical analysis," she asked Commander Wei. "The Vanguard consists of 15 destroyers, 4 cruisers, and 1 battleship, Captain," Wei replied. "Conventional military doctrine would consider this overkill for a single vessel. Even with our KD technology, sustained fire from that many ships will eventually find a vulnerability." Eliza nodded grimly. "Then we don't give them time to find it. Navigator, plot an intercept course that brings us through the center of their formation. Maximum acceleration on my mark." The bridge crew exchanged glances, but no one questioned the order. They had all studied the simulations. The Valiant's greatest advantage lay in close-quarters combat, where the Krylians' numerical superiority would become a liability. "Course plotted, Captain," the navigator confirmed. "Engineering. Power to the KD drive. Take us to 85% efficiency." "Aye, Captain." "KD field expanding to navigational envelope." "Execute," Eliza ordered, and the Valiant leaped forward with impossible acceleration, the stars blurring on the view screen. Aboard the inevitable Dominion, Fleet Commander Vexkar watched with growing concern as the human vessel displayed speed capabilities far beyond any previously documented. "Target is accelerating directly toward our Vanguard," his tactical officer reported. "Current velocity exceeds our fastest interceptors. Order the Vanguard to establish a containment perimeter," Vexkar commanded. "All vessels, converging fire once the target is within optimal range." The Krylian ships adjusted their formation, spreading out to create a killing field the human vessel would have to traverse. Their weapon systems powered up, creating a web of targeting locks designed to saturate every possible approach vector. "They're setting a trap," Wei observed on the Valiant's bridge. "Good," Eliza replied with a tight smile. "Dr. Karim, is your targeting feedback system ready?" "Online but untested, Captain," came the reply from engineering. "Theoretical success probability is 73%, but there are too many unknown variables for certainty. We're about to test it under fire. Stand by." The Valiant streaked toward the wall of Krylian warships, which opened fire simultaneously. Hundreds of energy beams, missiles, and kinetic projectiles converged on the human vessel, enough firepower to reduce a small moon to rubble. "QD field at maximum," Rivera shouted as the weapons approached. The space around the Valiant seemed to ripple and distort. Most of the incoming fire bent around them as before, but the sheer volume meant some impacts were inevitable. The ship shuddered as grazing hits struck the hull. "Damage to decks 5 through 8, reported the damage control officer. "Armor integrity at 92% and holding." "Activate Karim's feedback system," Eliza ordered. Lieutenant Rivera entered the command, and the KD field's harmonic pattern shifted subtly. For a brief moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then chaos erupted among the Krylian ships. Their targeting systems, receiving contradictory quantum signals from the Valiant, began firing at phantom sensor ghosts, and in some cases, at each other. "It's working," we exclaimed as two Krylian destroyers inadvertently fired upon a third. "Full offensive pattern," Eliza commanded. "Weapons free. Select your targets." The Valiant plunged into the heart of the confused Krylian formation, its conventional weapons now enhanced by the KD field's targeting capabilities. Energy beams lanced out with perfect accuracy, striking critical systems on ship after ship. Unlike the Krylians, who built their vessels for overwhelming force rather than survivability, the Valiant targeted engines, weapons, and command centers with surgical precision. In less than 5 minutes, 6 Krylian ships were disabled or destroyed, while the others struggled to reestablish their targeting systems and coordination. "Captain, the battleship is adapting," Garcia warned. "They're switching to manual targeting and coordinating the remaining destroyers." Before Eliza could respond, the Valiant rocked violently as multiple impacts struck simultaneously. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as systems reported damage. "QD field fluctuating," Rivera called out. "We're down to 62% efficiency and dropping." "Direct hit to power distribution node 7. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 12, the damage control officer added. "Emergency containment holding, but we've lost the port weapons array." This was the moment Eliza had been dreading, the point where Krylian adaptability began to overcome the Valiant's technological advantage. No simulation had predicted they could adjust their targeting system so quickly. "Fall back and regroup," she ordered. "Get repair teams to that distribution node. We need the QD field back to full strength." The Valiant disengaged, using its superior speed to open distance while the crew fought to repair critical systems. On the main viewer, the Krylian ships reformed their formation with ominous precision. "Damage assessment," Eliza demanded. "QD field stabilizing at 67%, Rivera reported. "Dr. Karim says that's the best we can hope for without major repairs. We've lost 40% of our offensive capability with the port array down." Commander Wei's expression was grave. "Captain, at reduced capacity, we cannot sustain another direct engagement with their remaining forces." Eliza stared at the tactical display, mind racing through options. The Valiant had bloodied the Krylian vanguard, destroying or disabling 8 vessels, but 12 remained, including the battleship, which showed minimal damage. And behind them, the main Krylian fleet continued its inexorable advance toward Earth. "What about the main fleet?" she asked Garcia. "Any reaction to our attack?" "They've slowed their advance slightly, Captain. It appears Fleet Commander Vexkar is awaiting the outcome of this engagement before committing his forces." That confirmed what Eliza had suspected. The Krylians' hierarchical command structure was both strength and weakness. They excelled at executing complex battle plans, but struggled with initiative when those plans were disrupted. "Dr. Karim," Eliza called to engineering. "The KD drive was designed for more than defense and maneuverability. What's the status of the theoretical offensive application?" A moment of silence followed. When Karim responded, her voice was cautious. "The quantum inversion cascade is untested, Captain. Simulations suggest a 62% chance of success, but a 27% chance of catastrophic drive failure." "Which would mean," Eliza pressed, "at minimum, total loss of the KD field. At worst, the uncontrolled collapse of multiple quantum states centered on our position." We leaned closer to Eliza. "That would destroy the Valiant along with anything nearby." Eliza nodded slowly. "And how nearby is nearby?" "Theoretically, the cascade would affect everything within a 5-kilometer radius," Karim replied. "But Captain, the variables are unknown." "Yes." Eliza made her decision. "Begin preparations for a quantum inversion cascade. Target the Krylian battleship." As the crew rushed to implement her orders, Eliza opened a secure channel to Admiral Jackson on Earth. "Valiant to Defense Command. We've engaged the Krylian vanguard and inflicted significant casualties, but we've taken damage. We're preparing a high-risk counterstrike that may eliminate their command vessel." Jackson's face on the screen showed both hope and concern. "The evacuation transports need more time, Captain. Whatever you're planning, we'll buy them that time, one way or another." The laser finished. "If we don't make it back, make sure Earth knows what the Valiant accomplished here. Godspeed, Captain Chen. Earth stands with you." As the communication ended, Eliza addressed her crew one final time. "All hands, this is the captain. We're about to attempt something never before tried in combat, a targeted quantum inversion. Engineering has calculated a 62% chance of success, which means there's a 38% chance we don't survive this maneuver." She paused, looking at the determined faces of her bridge crew. "But even if we fail, we've proven that humanity cannot be easily conquered. We've shown that human ingenuity and courage can stand against overwhelming odds. Whatever happens in the next 30 minutes, remember that the Valiant has already changed the course of this war." On the inevitable Dominion, Vexcar seethed with rage as reports of the Vanguard's losses reached him. 8 ships destroyed or disabled by a single human vessel. It was unprecedented and unacceptable. "Order all remaining Vanguard ships to converge on the human vessel," he commanded. "I want it destroyed, whatever the cost." Exalted One. His tactical officer ventured cautiously. "Perhaps we should analyze its capabilities further before." "We will not show weakness," Vexcar roared. "The human vessel is damaged. Finish it, then we proceed with the planned assault on their homeworld." The Krylian battleship led the remaining vessels in a direct approach toward the Valiant, weapons charged to maximum power. Their sensors showed the human ship making no attempt to flee, which Vexcar interpreted as surrender or malfunction. "They accept their fate," he declared with satisfaction. "Once their ship is destroyed, broadcast the footage to all human settlements. Let them witness the futility of resistance." Aboard the Valiant, final preparations for the quantum inversion were complete. The ship hovered at the edge of sensor range, its damaged systems partially repaired but still compromised. QD field reconfigured for inversion cascade. Dr. Karim reported. "We'll have approximately 20 seconds after initiation before the reaction becomes self-sustaining. After that point, we must be at least 5 kilometers from the target to avoid the cascade effect." "Time to optimal firing position?" Eliza asked. 3 minutes, 17 seconds, the navigator replied. "The Krylian vessels are advancing directly toward us at attack speed." "Perfect," Eliza said with grim satisfaction. "They're playing right into our hands." As the distance closed, the tension on the bridge was palpable. Every crew member knew they were attempting something unprecedented, using quantum physics itself as a weapon against an overwhelmingly superior force. 2 minutes to optimal position, the navigator called. "Begin inversion sequence," Eliza ordered. "All non-essential power to engines and the KD field." Throughout the ship, lights dimmed as energy was diverted to the experimental systems. In engineering, Dr. Karim and her team monitored the quantum field's harmonics with laser focus, making microscopic adjustments to maintain stability. 1 minute to optimal position. Krylian ships are in formation and accelerating. "They think we're easy prey," Wei observed. "Let them," Eliza replied. "Tactical, prepare to fire all remaining weapons at the battleship's forward shields on my mark. We need to create a momentary fluctuation for the cascade to penetrate." The distance between the fleets closed rapidly, the Krylian ships advancing with predatory confidence, while the Valiant appeared to drift almost passively in space. 30 seconds to optimal position. "Inversion cascade at pre-initiation stability," Rivera reported. "Field coherence nominal." 20 seconds. Eliza took a deep breath. "All hands, brace for emergency acceleration. On my mark. Weapons, full salvo. Navigator, execute evasion pattern Omega immediately after weapons discharge." 10 seconds. The Krylian ships began firing, their weapons streaking across space toward the Valiant. "Mark. The Valiant's remaining weapons fired simultaneously, striking the Krylian battleship's forward shields with concentrated force. Microseconds later, a barely visible pulse of energy, the quantum inversion cascade, followed the conventional attack. Evasion pattern Omega now, Eliza shouted as the ship lurched into a tight turn, accelerating away from the Krylian formation at maximum speed. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The Krylian battleship's shields absorbed the conventional weapons fire with minimal effect. Then space itself appeared to ripple around the massive vessel. The quantum inversion cascade functioned by temporarily reversing the probability state of matter within its effect radius. What should exist suddenly couldn't. What couldn't exist suddenly did. For the Krylian battleship, the result was catastrophic. Its hull began to distort as conflicting quantum states tore through its structure. Secondary explosions erupted across its surface as power systems failed simultaneously. "The cascade is propagating," Garcia exclaimed, effect extending to nearby Krylian vessels. On the view screen, the battleship's midsection collapsed inward, followed by a blinding flash as its reactor lost containment. The shockwave caught 3 nearby destroyers, tearing them apart. The remaining Krylian ships attempted to flee but were caught in the expanding quantum distortion. "Distance from detonation point," Eliza demanded. 4.8 kilometers and increasing," the navigator replied, tension evident in his voice. "Cascade effect boundary is expanding at 103% of predicted rate. QD field to maximum. All power to engines." The Valiant strained to outrun the quantum disturbance it had created. The damaged ship pushed beyond its design limits. For terrifying seconds, the cascade's edge remained just behind them, reality itself unraveling in their wake. 5.2 kilometers. 5.5. "We're clearing the effect radius," the navigator reported as collective breath was held on the bridge. Slowly, the quantum disturbance began to stabilize and then collapse, its energy spent. Where the Krylian vanguard had been, only debris and radiation remained. 12 warships erased in a single revolutionary attack. In the stunned silence that followed, Commander Wee spoke first. "Status report. QD field stable at 54%, Rivero replied. "Structural integrity at 76%. We're damaged but operational." "The Krylian main fleet has halted its advance," Garcia reported with disbelief. They're breaking formation. Multiple vessels are changing course away from Earth." Eliza allowed herself a small smile. "Open a channel to the Krylian command ship." When the connection was established, she faced the 4-armed visage of Fleet Commander Vexkar, whose mandibles twitched with barely suppressed rage. "This is Captain Eliza Chen of the Earth vessel Valiant. You've just witnessed what one human ship can do against your fleet. We have more where this came from." It was a bluff. The Valiant was the only ship of its kind, but the Krylians had no way of knowing that. "This changes nothing, human," Vexkar hissed. "The Dominion cannot be defeated." "Perhaps not," Eliza conceded, "but it can be bled. Every ship you send against Earth will face the same technology that just destroyed your vanguard. Ask yourself, how many ships are you willing to sacrifice before admitting that conquering us will cost more than it's worth?" Without waiting for a response, she cut the transmission and opened a channel to Earth. "Defense Command, this is the Valiant. The Krylian vanguard has been neutralized. Their main fleet is retreating to a defensive posture." She paused, allowing herself to feel, for the first time, the enormity of what they'd accomplished. "We did it, Admiral. We showed them that humanity won't go quietly." 3 days later, the Krylian fleet withdrew from the Sol system entirely. Interstellar monitoring stations tracked them returning to their territory, leaving only automated probes to observe Earth. The war wasn't over. The Krylians would return eventually, perhaps with new technology or tactics, but humanity had won something precious: time. As the Valiant docked at Earth's orbital station for repairs, crowds gathered in cities across the planet to celebrate. Screens everywhere showed the same image. one small ship facing down an alien armada, proving that even against impossible odds, humanity's ingenuity, courage, and determination could prevail. For Captain Eliza Chen and her crew, it was enough to know that they had written a new chapter in human history, one that would inspire generations to come as humanity prepared to take its rightful place among the stars.